For 15 long years, my mother kept me locked away, a creature with a human head atop a spider's body. Yesterday, she freed me. She confessed that my sister had been tormented to her demise. In a macabre gesture, she flayed my sister's skin and cloaked me in it. Now I am charged with a singular, grim task: to exterminate all who tormented my sister. My sister and I are twins, born just a minute apart. Yet our appearances could not be more different. My face is that of an ordinary infant, but my body bizarrely sprouts 8 spider legs. My mother's first glimpse of me drew instant tears, and the midwife collapsed in shock at the sight. Still, I am undeniably the child born from her womb. Her heart battled the thought of strangling me, yet her hands faltered. After whispering accusations of divine retribution, my mother concealed me from the world. When the midwife regained consciousness, my mother dismissed it as a mere hallucination. Consequently, I was relegated to the shadows of the basement. To the outside world, I was merely a child plagued with a grievous ailment, shunned from the light. From a tender age, the basement was my realm, my small universe for every mundane act of life. On one daring occasion, I slipped out, voraciously savoring the breath of fresh air outside. For the first time, sunlight touched me. A warm embrace cut tragically short as my mother seized me. She dragged and punished me mercilessly. One of my 8 legs snapped, eliciting a cry of pain from me. Exhausted, she tearfully murmured her apologies, saying, "You look like this. If seen, they would burn you alive as a monster. You would also tarnish your sister and me, relegating us to scorn." Thus, I was once again confined to the basement, isolated for 15 long years. Despite this, it never weakened the bond between my sister and me. She nurtured my mind with reading and writing each time she brought food. I sometimes coveted her fair, elongated legs. She would tenderly stroke my fuzzy spider legs, reassuring me with a smile that I too was endearing. Lately, however, her spirits had markedly declined. She became subdued. Her lively tales from school ceased. Her eyes clouded over, her skin marred by scars, her beautiful hair cut roughly. When I quietly asked what troubled her, she only wept silently against my shoulder. Until that day, when she walked into the basement, a tableau of unspoken sorrow painted in bruises. Her face had never been so pale. It was ghostly, entirely devoid of life's blush. My sister's legs shook, blood streaming between them, a sight I could not comprehend, yet filled with dread. She managed a weak smile at me, hugged me briefly, and departed. A foreboding filled me. She seemed poised to leave us forever. Desperate, I tried to follow her, but she had already secured the basement door behind her. That was indeed the last time I saw her. My sister was dead. My mother said she had ended her own life, her throat cut. The blood had surged, painting the floor crimson. Seemingly aged a decade overnight, my mother murmured. She was so averse to pain. Imagine her despair to choose such a torturous end. Her gaze then turned to me, filled with blame. "You were the last to see her. Why didn't you stop her? You monster!" Cowering in the corner, I trembled, my heart aching intensely. Then, unexpectedly, my mother's arms were around me once more. Her expression was unervingly wild and frenzied. "Do you want to go outside?" For the first time, she led me out voluntarily. There lay my sister, serene as if merely asleep. Mom calmly walked over to her sister and stroked her cheek. "I read your sister's diary. She was bullied to death. That day, those little brutes got some punks and gang raped her. They used a red-hot iron to burn her there, and a knife to carve on her chest. Those punks got caught, but those little bastards didn't get hurt at all. They didn't feel they were in the wrong and tried to get rid of me with money." My mom's face became more and more grim. This night, she peeled off her sister's skin and put it on me. A strange thing happened. My spider legs disappeared, and in their place were 2 slender human legs. A strange feeling spread all over my body. This was the first time I had the feeling of being a human. My mom stared at me dead in the face and said word by word, "From now on, You are Lu Yin. You have to remember how much your sister was tortured before she died. I want you to kill those, one by one, who have hurt her. I got my sister's diary. August 10th. I've reached my breaking point. They persistently bully Xiaosu, yet no one in our class dares to defend her. The teachers also overlook it, all because the bullies come from affluent, powerful families. I've decided this time I will be brave. August 11th. Today, they stopped tormenting Xiaosu, and I was truly glad for her. However, I hadn't anticipated that their malice would shift to me. They pinned me down and made me drink from the toilet. They seared my hands with cigarette butts, delighting in my cries of pain. Xiaosu watched from the sidelines, silent. Yet I bear her no ill will. August 14th. The brutality directed at me is escalating. Despite it being my menstrual period, they punched me in the abdomen. Furthermore, they poured chilly water into my eyes. The pain is overwhelming, and I am terrified I might lose my sight. They took off my clothes again and took nude pictures of me. My nude pictures went around the school and everyone looked at me in a weird way. They didn't say anything with their mouths, but they told me with their eyes that I was a slut. August 17th, I find myself longing for death. My mother is perpetually busy, and I hesitate to burden her with my troubles. My sister looks at me with concern, but she knows nothing of my ordeal. She harbors such hope for the outside world, having already faced her own hardships. How could I shatter her illusion? Reveal that the world beyond can be even darker. If it were up to me, I'd preserve her innocence indefinitely. August 20th. Today, they pierced my fingernails with toothpicks. The pain was agonizing, my fingers streaming with blood. Amidst my agony, they stood laughing. Xiaosu was among them, her laughter mingling with theirs. August 22nd, I reached out to a teacher in desperation. Yet, the homeroom teacher's response was terse. Endure it. Her gaze was cold, indifferent. It's your own fault for being poor. Xiaosu has allied with them. Today, she attacked my fingers with scissors. Though they remained intact, the bleeding was severe, and the pain led me to faint repeatedly. Sister, I fear I can't withstand much more. August 25th. I am close to my breaking point. Several times, I've contemplated death, but the thought of my sister has always pulled me back. Unexpectedly, they've escalated their cruelty by involving a few thugs that I was raped by those stinking bastards. They burned me there with a red-hot iron. I couldn't survive. The diary breaks off suddenly here. Though filled with words, some elude my comprehension. Yet inexplicably, tears persistently stream down, wetting the diary's pages. A strange, painful tightness grips my heart. Today, I officially step into the role of a younger sister, my first day at school. After 15 years, I venture outside for the first time. The breeze is warmly inviting, unlike the oppressive chill of the basement. For the first time, I walked on human legs, my steps slightly uncoordinated. I stumbled and nearly fell. Suddenly, I was kicked sharply from behind. Losing my footing, I toppled forward onto the ground. Directly in front of me was a rock. It was clearly intentional. My head slammed against the rock, blood spurting instantly. The pain was sharp. Slowly, I got up, turned around, and saw my assailant. It was two girls, one with long hair, the other with short. The one with long hair was strikingly pretty and smiled continuously at me. Een, your forehead's still bleeding. Are you okay? Let's get you to the infirmary, she said. She grabbed my hand and forcefully dragged me forward. I offered no resistance. I was curious to see what they had planned for me. Many bystanders noticed our ordeal, yet no one intervened. They merely observed the scene. Their gazes were icy. It was the first time I realized how utterly cold people's eyes could be. I was dragged into the infirmary by the two. The infirmary teacher gave us a brief glance and remarked indifferently, "Don't take your games too far." Then he left. Suddenly, it was just the three of us in the infirmary. The door was locked from inside. The short-haired girl looked at me with a beaming smile, her dimples quite charming. But her gaze was akin to that of a slimy, venomous snake. The short-haired girl picked up a bottle of transparent liquid, waving it teasingly in front of me. "Een, you reek. Let's clean that up with some alcohol," she proposed. I wasn't familiar with alcohol. She splashed it across my forehead. The alcohol stung sharply, a burning sensation as though it would ignite. They roared with laughter, heedlessly jabbing at my wound with tweezers. The bleeding increased, and the pain escalated sharply. Still, I remained silent, fixing them with an unflinching gaze. These were the tormentors of my sister, as chronicled in her diary. This was the torment my sister faced daily. If even I, a mere monster, felt this pain, the agony for her, a human, must be profound. I let out a silent laugh. They glanced at each other, noticing the peculiar looks on their faces. Then, the long-haired girl, Huang Susu, raised her hand and delivered a heavy blow to my face. My face quickly ballooned. Huang Susu's prowess in Taekwondo, as noted in the diary, meant her hits were devastatingly strong. "Een, have you been scared witless?" Huang Susu sneered darkly. "Look at her face, swollen like a bitter melon," she jeered. The short-haired girl doubled over with laughter. Her name came back to me too, Jiang Tian. The diary mentioned her father was on the school board. She was untouchable within the school. Then, the bell signaling the start of class rang. "I need to get to class, or my dad will have my head if I skip again," Jiang Tian said as she made her way out. Huang Susu sneered. "Look at you, so timid. You go on. I'll stay here and entertain myself with her a little longer. I just failed an exam, and my mom cut off my credit card. I've got plenty of anger to release." Huang Susu's gaze darkened menacingly. "Just be careful. Don't let it end up like last time. We don't need that trouble," Jiang Tian cautioned before exiting. Now it was just Huang Susu and me left alone. "Een, how shall we proceed with our game?" she queried, walking over to a shelf filled with myriad bottles and jars that were foreign to me. "What if we experiment to see what happens when someone ingests 50 different pills all at once?" Huang Susu suggested with a thrill in her voice, clutching a bottle of pills as she stepped toward me. However, the next moment her face shifted from excitement to sheer horror, for I had cast off my sister's skin. Like a spider shedding its exoskeleton, I discarded the human facade. Reverting to my true form, Huang Susu shrieked and spun around to run away. But her speed was no match for mine, as I am a spider. I darted ahead and blocked her path to the door. "What are you?" "A monster, there's a monster," Huang Susu stammered in terror. She had lost the fierce edge she had earlier. I suddenly understood why my mother had always kept me indoors. Clearly, ordinary people become terrified at the sight of me. In her intense fear, she grabbed bottles and threw them at me. However, I easily evaded them. Huang Susu then attempted to flee through a back window, but I quickly saw through her plan. One of my spider legs impaled her ankle. Blood burst forth. It was an odd sensation. Felt like piercing into a piece of soft, tender flesh. Huang Susu let out ear-piercing screams. Irritated by the noise, I spat out my spider silk, effectively silencing her. My silk has dual properties. It can heal wounds or corrode flesh. This time, I chose the corrosive effect. Huang Susu's screams intensified as the flesh around her lips quickly disintegrated, leaving her face bloodied. Licking my lips, I interrogated her. "Did my sister ever scream as loudly as this?" Huang Susu seemed unable to comprehend my meaning. The pain was so severe that she convulsed and lost bladder control. Seeing her begin to lose consciousness, I deftly grabbed a bottle of alcohol with another leg and doused her with it. Huang Susu shrieked, the pain snapping her back to awareness. Indeed, alcohol proved to be an effective sedative. She regained her senses, begging, "Please, let me go. I'm sorry, so very sorry." Her face was streaked with tears and snot. Dissatisfied with her plea, I impaled her other leg. "Why did you bully Luin?" Pressed. "Because Luin is a whore." "Is it because she's prettier? My boyfriend took so many secret photos of her." "That slut." Huang Susu's face twisted with hate. I still could not fathom her justification for despising my sister. My sister had done absolutely nothing to deserve this. Humans can be profoundly strange. Please let me go. I won't tell anyone what I saw. My family has plenty of money. I can give you so much. Huang Susu sobbed, her vision clouded with tears. But money holds no value to me. No amount of money could bring Lu Yin back to life. I pierced Huang Susu's brain directly. Her brain matter exploded outward. Her face was eternally frozen in that final moment of pure terror. I slipped back into my sister's human skin, regaining my human appearance. I moved closer to Huang Susu, a filament of my spider silk threaded into her mouth. Huang Susu rose stiffly to her feet. I meticulously repaired her wounds with my silk. She looked just as she had in life. This secret I kept from my mother. Only my sister knew of my ability to manipulate living beings with spider silk. Initially, it was accidental, small insects that flew into the basement. Later, small animals that blundered and met the same fate. Unfortunately, once touched by my silk, they became nothing more than lifeless puppets. After tending to the wounds, I restored the infirmary to how it had been. Huang Susu led the way stiffly, and I trailed behind her. As we entered the classroom, everyone gazed at me with thinly veiled delight at my misfortune. My head was wrapped in bandages, making me appear severely disheveled. A blackboard eraser struck my head with force. The classroom erupted into laughter. The teacher eyed me coldly. "Aren't you aware the class has started?" She disregarded Huang Susu and didn't inquire about my injuries. I kept my head low and made my way to my sister's seat. I had barely moved forward when a deliberately extended foot tripped me. I crashed to the ground, a steel nail piercing through my knee. The boy who tripped me grinned malevolently. It was clear that this was all a setup targeted at me. He wore a defiant buzz cut and had intense, pronounced features. He was also mentioned in my sister's diary. His name was Ho Hao. He was among those who bullied my sister. Known as the school bully, Ho Hao often resorted to violence for trivial matters. No one dared to cross him due to his family's underworld connections, which could make people disappear unnoticed. Previously, anyone who annoyed him ended up badly beaten. Initially, Ho Hao had shown some interest in my sister, but after she spurned his advances, he turned his embarrassment into rage. If he couldn't possess her, he decided to destroy her. No one came forward to assist me. The teacher carried on with her lecture, not once glancing in my direction. Clearly, my sister had always been invisible in this classroom. I rose smoothly to my feet and looked directly at Ho Hao. I brushed the hair from my forehead back and flashed him a sweet smile. Ho Hao's cheeks turned a faint red, clearly taken aback by my gesture. "Slut." The venom in Jiang Tian's voice was palpable, her words dripping with bitterness. The diary had noted Jiang Tian's feelings for Ho Hao, explaining her animosity towards me. I moved to my seat and settled down. My sister's desk mate, referred to in the diary, was Su Su. She was a plain-looking girl with glasses, seeming meek and mild. Yet, the instant I sat next to her, Su Su moved aside, her face contorted with distaste. "You stink. Did you contract some STD from being too busy? It smells like rotten seafood here." Her harsh words provoked quiet laughter from the surrounding classmates. Curiously, I tilted my head to look at her. The diary had mentioned that Susu was already a pariah when my sister joined the class. Bruised daily, Susu had no friends. Her mother was a local vegetable seller, and their financial situation was dire. Only my sister had reached out to befriend Susu. Humans are perplexing. If they were friends, why harbor such deep-seated malice? However, these concerns are now behind me. Mother had made it clear, only those who had bullied my sister, as listed in her diary, mattered. They were all marked for death. After school, I was cornered in an alley by Ho Hao. With a smug smile, Ho Hao pinned me effortlessly against the wall. "Lu Yin, wouldn't it have been easier to just agree to be my girlfriend? Who would dare bully you then? Does your leg still hurt? I could take you to the hospital. I bullied you because I actually like you. Ever heard the saying? Boys tease the girls they like." But Ho Hao's expression shifted to a more playful look as he stared into my eyes. I'm not sure if you really want to be my girlfriend, you need to prove it. Start by taking off your clothes. I looked around, ensuring we were alone, then slowly offered a smile. Fine. I began unbuttoning my shirt. Ho Hao's excitement was evident, his nostrils flaring in anticipation. What he didn't know was that a slaughter was imminent. In the blink of an eye, countless strands of spider silk erupted from my body, encasing Ho Hao's face. Ho Hao shrieked in agony, desperately trying to free himself from the silk. Once he caught his breath, he turned to flee. He made it only a few steps before I yanked him back. Seeing me in my true form, Ho Hao trembled uncontrollably, his face a mask of pure terror. "You're a monster," he screamed. "Ho Hao, you were right. I also relish tormenting those I'm fond of. Your scent is quite alluring." I licked my lips. Ho Hao's screams for help were cut short as I pierced his throat. I methodically devoured his flesh, savoring each bite. It's worth noting, I don't care for human cuisine. I prefer the taste of fresh, raw meat. My mother, however, doesn't approve and insists I eat regular human food. Tasting human blood for the first time, I consumed Ho Hao completely, leaving nothing behind. "Inin, that's one less bully to worry about," I murmured to myself. Transformed back into my human form, I encountered Jiang Tian just as I left the alley. Jiang Tian looked at me disdainfully, scanning the area. "Where's Ho Hao?" I feigned innocence, shaking my head to suggest ignorance. "Who do you think you're fooling?" She slapped me hard. "I saw Ho Hao follow you right here, and now you say you don't know? How could Ho Hao still be interested in a piece of trash like you? Especially after your nude photos circulated through the school. Weren't you humiliated enough last time? Miss is in a foul mood today, so spit it out. Where did Ho Hao go?" Jiang Tian snapped, her patience wearing thin. "I honestly don't know." Jiang Tian stared at me for a tense few seconds before erupting into a chilling laugh. "All right then, you wretched slut. Trying to provoke me?" She whipped out her phone and pointed it at my face. "Hello everyone. This is your host Xiao Tian. Today's live broadcast features a very special guest, our class beauty Lu Yin. She looks so pure, doesn't she? But I'll let you in on a secret. Just a few days ago, she was caught with 3 guys. Today, I'm going to spice things up in the live stream by picking a random passerby to spend a night with our lovely Lu Yin." Jiang Tian's fingernails dug painfully into my cheek. She pressed down hard, and my cheek quickly started bleeding. Jiang Tian laughed gleefully. "Yin, you seem to be quite the attraction. We've already got over 10,000 viewers." She leaned close and hissed in my ear. "Stick with me, and if you think about escaping, I'll make sure someone burns down your house and kills that witch mother of yours." As Jiang Tian led the way with her phone, I meekly tagged along behind her. Thanks to my exceptional vision, far better than that of an ordinary human, I could clearly read even the tiny comments scrolling across Jiang Tian's livestream. I subtly exposed a spider leg. "Holy crap, host, look behind you. Is that a monster? Is this some kind of special effect? Or should I be scared?" I had literally just taken my pants off, and then I got so scared I pulled them right back up. "Host, turn around quickly, what is that? Is that a spider leg?" By the time Jiang Tian sensed something was wrong and turned around, I had already reverted to my normal appearance. "Guys, stop with the jokes. All this monster talk really knows how to give someone a scare." I followed Jiang Tian to a nearby underpass. She pointed at a homeless man. He was filthy, his hair slick with grease. "Guys, this homeless man has been here for a month. I heard he has AIDS, and as a result, he's been ostracized by the other homeless people. Xiao Tian also heard that he's cruel and likes to torture small animals to vent his frustrations. How do you think it would go if we handed our Yin over to someone like him?" But Jiang Tian quickly frowned. "Is it special effects or real? She just peeled off her own skin. Holy crap. I'm so terrified I'm shriveling up. Xiao Tian, this live stream is way different from your usual. I'm gonna unfollow if you keep this up. This is too damn scary. That's not a human. That's a monster. What human has that many spider legs? It's making my skin crawl. I'm a grown man and I'm scared out of my wits. Dear viewers, what's come over you today? All these talks of spider monsters. Jiang Tian threw me another suspicious look. Yet, I had returned to my human guise, leaving no trace for her to detect. Lu Yin, are you content with the man I've selected for you? Though it seems you're not fussy, any man would seem to suffice for you. Jiang Tian yanked me toward the vagrant. I made no attempt to resist. Her back receded from view as I reflected on my sister's plight that day. To the human mind, the mistreatment of a girl by a stranger is deeply cruel. Jiang Tian acted as though it was her right, devoid of any empathy, as if she weren't a girl herself. The irony was not lost on me. Who really is the monster here? My sister had never hinted that the outside world I longed for teemed with souls far more monstrous than any myth. If her heart were ever revealed, it would surely stink of rot. Rage surged through me. How could someone so physically blessed commit such vile acts? And I, innocent, had been confined to a dreary basement. When the vagrant saw us, he stood up abruptly. His eyes bore into us like a ravenous beast upon sighting its prey. Scattered around him were the remains of several wild cats, their bodies grotesquely mangled and bloodied. Jiang Tian pinched her nose, whispering, "This stench is unbearable. Look, I'll give you 10,000 yuan if you sleep with her." Jiang Tian nudged me towards the vagrant. The vagrant flashed a grin, his teeth glaringly yellow. "Really?" He seemed dubious. "Absolutely. Just get it over with and I'll transfer the money immediately." Jiang Tian, addressing the camera, beamed, "Dear viewers, stay tuned for the most exhilarating moment with Xiao Tian." What exhilarating moment? I think you're doomed. Came here to relax. Now I'm guaranteed nightmares for a week. I'm new. Has nobody called the police? Why bother with the police? You know the nature of this site. Just enjoy the spectacle. Farewell, host. May the host's demise not be too horrific. Jiang Tian was visibly disoriented by these comments. Unbeknownst to her, I stealthily fed a spider thread into the vagrant's mouth. His gaze immediately became unfocused. Jiang Tian implored, "Hey, speed it up." The vagrant nodded mechanically, then advanced toward her. "You're confused. You've mistaken the person. I meant her." Jiang Tian gestured at me with disdain. Yet the vagrant continued his steady advance towards Jiang Tian. She found herself trapped in a corner. Realizing her predicament, fear etched across her face. "Are you insane? Touch me and you'll regret it. Do you have any clue who my father is? He'll have you exterminated." Jiang Tian bellowed. However, the vagrant was devoid of life, simply a puppet under my control. Fear is alien to a puppet. He subdued Jiang Tian. She emitted a shrill scream. Desperately, she tried to fend him off. But how could she, a young woman, overpower a grown vagrant? Jiang Tian's clothes were savagely torn away. She was consumed by terror, desperately calling out to me for help. "Lu Yin, save me. Please do it quickly. I admit my mistake. I'll pay you handsomely. I know your family is struggling, you need the money. If you refuse to save me, I'll ensure your demise." I, however, remained motionless, simply observing them. That day, my sister Lu Yin, when she endured their brutality, she must have been as terrified as you. I murmured, more to myself than to anyone else. Jiang Tian gaped at me in disbelief. "Sister, you aren't Lu Yin?" She was always so full of life, but afterward, she was like a shadow of herself. I failed as a sister, unable to grasp why she withered away like that. Mother was right. I should have incapacitated her legs to stop her that day. It would have saved her life. "Lu Yin is dead?" Jiang Tian's eyes widened further. Jiang Tian was manipulated, resembling a shattered doll. I ordered the vagrant to halt his actions. Jiang Tian glared at me, her eyes seething with a visceral fury. "I will not forgive you. I will see to your end." I smirked softly. "Regrettably, you no longer have that chance." Before her eyes, I removed my own skin. Mother always said that human skin decays, It doesn't endure long, I murmured. Jiang Tian shook uncontrollably, her expression stricken with horror. You appear terrified. Why fear me, when your own deeds are far more monstrous? She opened her mouth to respond, but I swiftly impaled her chest. Jiang Tian's body twitched, her eyes rapidly fading. She was dead. I stripped off her skin. I required fresh human skin to maintain my guise. Lu Yin, only one remains, I whispered.
He approached Su Su's residence.
Her home was nestled in a nearby slum, starkly run down. Men occasionally leered at me as they passed by. I could hear voices arguing as I neared Su Su's residence. Useless. How can selling vegetables all day yield so little money? This wouldn't even cover a single meal in town. Peering through the window, I saw Su Su castigating a middle-aged woman with a grim expression. Undoubtedly her mother. I watched, intrigued. In contrast to the dynamic I shared with my mother, Su Su's mother was clearly the subordinate. Xiao Su, don't be upset. Mom will work harder to earn money. Mom has even found someone who buys blood. It's quite lucrative. The woman's lips were cracked, her face pale, visibly drained. Then get on with it. Had I known you'd be so useless, I might as well have left with Dad. The woman's eyes widened slowly. Xiao Su, have you forgotten what your father did to you? That's why I left him. Su Su sneered as though she'd heard something absurd. I was bullied at school because I'm from a poor family. But now, thankfully, a fool has taken my place, and I no longer suffer from bullying. It's no wonder they relish in bullying others. The sensation is surprisingly pleasant. I knocked on the window, halting her mid-sentence.
Xiao Su.
I offered her a smile. Upon seeing me, Su Su's demeanor shifted. Why are you here? She advanced, her expression strange. I saw Ho Hao following you. How come he didn't cripple you? Su Su's mother emerged behind her. Xiao Su, is this your friend? Come in. Let me get you some water. This is no friend of mine. She's a schoolyard dog. Su Su approached with a sneer, seized my hair, and smashed my face into the ground. Su Su's mother gasped, Xiao Su, this isn't right. My face was crushed against the mud, air escaping me. Su Su's mother moved to intervene, but Su Su cut her off sharply. Don't bother. You're good at staying silent, aren't you? Just like when Dad was doing those things to me. Su Su's voice was cold and harsh. Her mother's face blanched, lips quivering, as she remained helplessly on the sidelines. Lu Yin, I've loathed you since you arrived. We're both from impoverished families, both overlooked. Yet why do you manage to smile so radiantly? Fool, did you really think you were my friend? I just needed a scapegoat to endure the bullying. Su Su, not yet appeased, then pressed her foot down on my head. She intensified her grip. Su Su's mother shouted, She will die! But Su Su soon noticed something unsettling. She fixated on a particular spot on my neck. That's Jiang Tian's tattoo on her neck. How do you have the same tattoo? Gradually, I raised my head, my face caked with mud and streaked with water, revealing a macabre smile. That's because I'm currently wearing her skin. Su Su jolted back. You can't be serious. I rose to my feet. My sister mentioned you. She admired your strength and wanted to rescue you. But she didn't realize that she wasn't saving a human, but a monster. I steadily closed the distance between Su Su and myself. Su Su crumpled to the ground, retreating erratically under my intense gaze. Auntie, your daughter is irreparable. Shall I craft a new, docile daughter for you? Su Su's mother looked at me bewildered, failing to comprehend. But in the next instant, spider silk erupted from my mouth, plunging into Su Su's mouth.
Xiao Su.
Su Su's mother screamed. Su Su twitched several times before her complexion slowly drained of color. I guarantee she'll obey you from now on. I spoke with sincerity to Su Su's mother. Yet, I couldn't fathom why she looked at me with such profound hatred. You monster! She attacked me. I didn't kill her but subdued her by knocking her out. Lu Yin, the last one who bullied you is now gone. Just then, a light rain began. The cool raindrops slid down my forehead. I licked the rain from my lips, sensing it was time to return. I got home. My mother was sitting at the table, as if she had been waiting for me. "I'm back." I nodded, clutching my clothes anxiously. In my mother's presence, I reverted to being that young, misunderstood creature. "Are they all gone?" I nodded again. That was when my mother finally smiled at me. It was the first smile I had ever seen directed towards me. I smiled back uncontrollably. "Come here." I sat next to her hesitantly. She gently touched my face. "You resemble your sister so much. I've wronged you all these years. I understand now it wasn't your fault. I should never have resented you." My mother then revealed the truth of my origins. She confessed she wasn't a sorceress, lacking any mystical powers. I struck a bargain with a dark force to survive. That creature warned it would curse my first child. When I first saw you, I knew it had not relented. All these years, every glimpse of you brought back memories of the mistakes of my youth. I hid you in the basement, afraid to confront your appearance. My mother said, tears streaming uncontrollably down her cheeks. I reached out, gently wiping away her tears. "I don't blame you. I harbor no resentment." I murmured softly. My mother held me tightly. A spider leg slipped out from under my clothes. For the first time, my mother reached out and touched it. "It's furry, somewhat adorable." My mother laughed softly. Tears flowed from my eyes before I even noticed.